One of the most intriguing things about the museum is the really wonderful blend of science and culture and history. All three of the things are addressed in the museum, and people really get a very good comprehensive view of what Alaska is all about when they're here, and it really leaves them with some insights that they never had even contemplated before they came in the doors. One of the best reasons to work here at the museum is because visitors are absolutely fascinated by different things within our exhibits. Each different visitor finds a different thing to like. Some are really intrigued by the copper nugget weighing 5,495 pounds. Others go wild for the gold. The polar bear and the big brown bear are always two of the most loved exhibits. The brown bear, which greets you as you walk in the door, he's our mascot, and his name is Otto. And people are forever getting their picture taken next to Otto, so I figure he's probably one of the most well-known figures in Fairbanks, Alaska, is our wonderful brown bear.
What do you do to try and prepare yourself not to be attacked by a bear?
Well, you don't want to walk around with tuna fish sandwiches in your back pocket. There's a good idea. I mean, you have to be really intelligent with your approach to this animal because it roams freely out there. But also trying not to dominate the bear, because the bears also work in a hierarchy where there's a dominance and submission. You definitely want to be submissive to their posturing, because when you challenge them, they'll run up, and 9.9 times out of 10, they'll charge you, but it's a bluff charge, where they just want to scare you out of your pants, and it works really well, too.
My interests revolve around a couple of different issues. One of them is based on the fact that I enjoy field work. I've done field work extensively in South America and here in Alaska. And I've seen just in the last 15 to 20 years a tremendous change in natural populations due to a change in natural habitats. So I think that conservation and issues related to studying diversity and the impacts of changing a landscape, changing habitats, has on natural populations is one of the driving forces for my research. My dad actually was a historian, and he always was talking about how we need to learn about history so we don't repeat some of our mistakes. I think that you know, for young people coming in, that it's often important to see that there is a historic record, and that we often can step through some of the other projects that have been done in this collection to understand that there are a number of different kinds of approaches that can be taken to answer or address different scientific problems or questions that might be out there. One of the common conceptions or views of museums is that they're sort of a dusty old attic. And that's a description that I really don't care much for, because this is a very active place. It's a real exciting place. It's not, it's more like the engine room perhaps, or the kitchen. What's kind of nice about our collection too, and museums in general, is that we engage people at many different levels. Folks that are leaders in evolutionary biology or biodiversity issues or ecology, a lot of them got their start in museum collections.
We put our map like this.
What we try to do with the kids is personalize the museum experience as much as possible. That's why we have 3 docents for every school group that comes in. There was a young girl that came into one of our Alaska Native programs a couple of years ago, and we happened to be going through the Southwest Gallery, where we have a very large mural of the village of Unalaska. She looked at that mural and then grabbed me by the hand and pulled me over to the mural, and she says, "That's my grandmother's house." And that kind of an experience was very meaningful, because it is those connections between the past and today that is really meaningful for me as an educator. The Northern Inua is performances of traditional games and stories done in a modern setting.
We will now demonstrate the seal hop.
Visitors get a sense that the Alaska Native culture does not live in the past, but it brings forward many of its traditional values.
harder than it looks, believe me.
The Athabascan Indians of Alaska say that long ago, when Reagan first created the world, animals could lift their masks and show their human forms to people.
What keeps my interest flowing is the simple enjoyment of knowing that these great and wonderful works that spread through the history of art in the far north are being saved, preserved, and shared. That whole idea, that whole concept of being able to preserve and focus attention and maintain interest in some of the great masterworks that are produced over the years is the generating impetus for my enthusiasm. That's where I feel very excited. Virtually equal in intensity is the enjoyment, the excitement about discovering a new artist or a new work that just speaks about the issues that are relevant right now in Alaska, about the joy of being here, brought through an aesthetic presentation of painting or photography or whatever medium it might be. Finding those and finding a way to bring them into our permanent collection is just an unending source of joy and interest.
One of the things that's always fascinated me about material culture, and especially in Alaska, is that from the very beginning, it seemed that the aesthetic dimension or the aesthetic part of any object is so much incorporated into the whole range of material culture. All of the people up here had no word for art, yet they all have such strong aesthetic traditions. The fact that absolutely utilitarian objects would be as beautiful as these are or this is, it is completely wonderful. It's a constant source of delight to me in doing my own work and in looking over and taking care of this collection. The collection is one of the most unique things about this museum because the museum's location in the north, in the middle of one of the most lively contemporary series of native cultures, is one of the things that makes it truly unique. I think that the museum has been enormously enriched by the participation of Native people. It adds enormously both to our fund of knowledge and to what we're able to offer to the public.
What started me working in anthropology and in archaeology was working out in a field site. And it's probably a reason why it's good to do field work. But I felt a real strong connection with people in the past by excavating the objects that had been used 2,000, 5,000, 8,000 years ago. It's really a thrill to pick up a stone tool that someone manufactured 6,000 years ago and used on that spot and either discarded or lost it. But it's also very satisfying to do research on a collection because in order to go out into the field to do more field work, we have to have questions to take to the field. And in order to formulate those questions, we have to understand what we already have. My ideal for a museum is to be a museum without walls. I would really like the collections in the museum to be part of living cultures. Even though we're talking about a prehistoric collection, the people who are still living still have something to say about it. We invited elders from St. Lawrence Island to come visit us here at the museum and view the collections and talk to us about the collections, about what they remembered from their past and what their parents told them and their grandparents told them. And it gave us an opportunity to learn from them what they knew about the collection and also to share our scientific knowledge with them. It was an extraordinary experience all around. And by the time we got through with it, we were like grandparents and grandchildren almost. We were all talking together about things. And we found out that the elders have really a depth of knowledge about the physical objects that we hadn't appreciated before. And were able to tell us about things that not only we, but other researchers in the past had just assumed. And we found out that some of the assumptions were totally wrong and were based on no information. It was just what something looked like. And they would tell us, no, that's not the case, and that these things were used for something entirely different.
I think what's exciting about the exhibition galleries is the way that they're laid out. They're not done in a traditional discipline manner separately. They're integrated together by regions of the state. So when you're looking at the dinosaurs in that area, you can also see material culture of that area along with it. And so there's this continuum. We want the museum to be dynamic and contemporary and ongoing, and that it's an arena for exploration for individuals to come in and experience for themselves. When you come in to look at the Blue Babe story, for example, this 36,000-year-old mummy bison, the curator has presented the objects. You see the artistry of a taxidermied specimen, but that you also get the detective story. You get to read the text of the interpretation, but you use your own eyes and witness this evidence yourself.
The excitement of actually digging these things for yourself and being involved in these enterprises, I can tell you there's nothing that can substitute for the excitement of actually being involved in a dig, whether it's archaeological, historical, or paleontological. You can talk about it all day, but actually getting in the middle of it and understanding the demands of the Arctic environment and how different it is in some ways from doing such digs in other parts of the world is something that can only be properly appreciated by being directly involved, not just looking at what somebody else collected and analyzed.
Every kid likes dinosaurs. I know when I was growing up, I wanted to be a paleontologist the worst way. And I got a chance to actually do that. I got to go out, find bones, dig them up, clean them, do all the stuff that I dreamt of as a kid. And now I get to do this as well back here in the lab.
Every time we open one of these jackets, as Gary is doing right now, we find things that we didn't know were in there. And so it's always a surprise package. And sometimes we, in the field, we misidentify things because it's rainy, the matrix is mixed in with the bone, and until we clean the bones up and actually separate them from the matrix, we find that we may not have appreciated some of the discoveries. Practically every year we find something new in these packages as we open them.
Made me realize how much work goes into displaying bones for a museum. To get an exhibit type quality display just takes hours and hours of a lot of work. I started with dinosaurs and teachers in the classroom, and I just retired after 27 years of teaching and wanted to do something different. So, like you said, this is like a treasure hunt. You open it up, you never know what you find.
For too long, the fossils of Alaska were taken outside the state because there wasn't a repository or a place to keep these collections properly. Now we have the opportunity to put together one of the greatest collections of high-latitude dinosaur material and related vertebrate material, including early mammals, of any museum in the world.
Our museum is a meeting place. We have people from the community come in to share their stories and make history come alive.
It just seems to be that not a day goes by that something compelling and fascinating isn't happening here at the museum.
This museum covers one of the largest areas in the United States, but there's been literally only the beginning of a true assessment of the richness of this state. And the diversity of materials far exceeds anything we can even imagine right now.
Our interest is to build on this wonderful wealth of information, history, and aesthetic wonder. I always think of it as a treasure trove that we hold and share with the people of the state of Alaska.